Sadik Khan, the mayor of London, appeared visibly emotional as he issued a stark warning ahead of Donald Trump's inauguration, claiming that Western democracy faces a critical threat from the resurgence of fascism. His impassioned statement highlights his deep concern about what he sees as a dangerous rise in reactionary ideologies across the globe. However, this is the same individual who, just this week, refused to collaborate with reform initiatives aimed at tackling the pervasive issue of knife crime in London. His decision not to engage with these efforts has sparked criticism, especially as the city continues to grapple with escalating violence on its streets. Additionally, Khan has faced backlash for his reluctance to openly address the existence of grooming gangs, a controversial and sensitive topic that has left many questioning his commitment to confronting difficult social issues. Critics argue that while he has been vocal about his disdain for populist movements and far-right ideologies, he appears unwilling to acknowledge or address problems closer to home, which some view as equally pressing. In his latest remarks, Khan has launched a scathing verbal attack, reigniting his feud with Trump and warning of the existential risks posed by reactionary populism. He framed the current political climate as a defining moment for progressives, calling on the left to rise to the challenge and defend liberal democracy against what he described as opportunistic forces seeking to divide society for personal and political gain. His statements reflect a broader narrative of concern over global trends, with particular emphasis on the influence of Trump and far-right movements in Europe and the United States. Despite the gravity of his warnings, Khan's critics argue that his leadership in London raises questions about his credibility on the issues he decries. Many have pointed to his administration's handling of knife crime, with the city continuing to see tragic incidents of violence involving young people. There is also a growing perception that his refusal to engage with contentious issues like grooming gangs undermines his moral authority to speak out on broader global threats. Khan's comments come as he appeals to fellow progressives to confront these challenges head-on, urging them to remain unyielding in their commitment to democratic values and equality. He drew historical parallels to the 1920s and 1930s, cautioning that complacency in the face of growing extremism could lead to a repetition of past mistakes. While his rhetoric is undoubtedly powerful, the contrast between his impassioned international stance and his approach to local issues has left many Londoners divided. His leadership continues to inspire debate, as his supporters praise his boldness on the world stage, while detractors demand more action and accountability at home. Today's discussion will explore this complex dynamic, diving into Sadik Khan's warnings about resurgent fascism, the ongoing challenges in London under his leadership, and the broader implications of his remarks in the context of a shifting global political landscape. Sadik Khan, the mayor of London, has once again issued a severe warning about the rise of resurgent fascism, using the occasion to reignite his long-standing feud with former US President Donald Trump ahead of the presidential inauguration. Khan's statement was a rallying cry to Labour and the broader left, urging them to confront what he described as reactionary populism, a force he considers a grave and immediate threat to liberal democracy. His words were charged with urgency, reflecting a deep concern for the state of global politics and the ideological battles currently shaping the future of democratic societies. The tensions between Khan and Trump are far from new, having been well documented over the years. Their public clashes began during Trump's presidency and have since become emblematic of the ideological divide between progressive leadership and far-right populism. One particularly contentious moment arose when Trump publicly claimed that London had become unrecognizable due to its immigration policies, a remark that Khan condemned as inflammatory and divorced from the realities of the city he governs. Trump's comment sparked outrage among many Londoners, but they also underscored the stark contrast between his vision of nationalism and Khan's commitment to multiculturalism and inclusivity. Khan has consistently criticized Trump's rhetoric, which he views as divisive and dangerous, accusing the former president of exacerbating social tensions for political gain. In turn, Trump has not held back in his criticisms of Khan, frequently targeting him on social media and in public speeches. These exchanges have often been laced with personal attacks, further escalating the animosity between the two leaders. For Khan, however, this feud goes beyond personal grievances. It represents a broader fight against the kind of populism that he believes undermines democratic values and fosters division. In his recent remarks, Khan called on progressives to unite in the face of what he perceives as an existential threat to liberal democracy. He highlighted the rise of far-right movements across Europe, such as Germany's Alternative für Deutschland, AfD, and France's National Rally, as well as Trump's enduring influence in the United States. According to Khan, these movements thrive on fear and division, exploiting economic and social insecurities to gain power. He argued that it is the responsibility of leaders on the left to expose these tactics and provide a more hopeful, inclusive vision for the future. While Khan's criticisms of Trump and far-right populism have earned him praise from some quarters, they have also invited scrutiny. Critics question whether his focus on international issues and high-profile disputes detracts from addressing pressing challenges within London itself. They argue that while Khan positions himself as a global defender of democracy, the ongoing issues of knife crime, housing shortages, and social inequality in the capital demand his immediate attention and action. This tension between his international rhetoric and local governance continues to fuel debate about his leadership. Ultimately, Khan's feud with Trump is more than a clash of personalities, it is a symbol of the ideological battle between two opposing visions of leadership. On one side, there is Trump's populist nationalism, rooted in exclusion and division. On the other, there is Khan's progressive agenda, emphasizing inclusion and the defense of democratic values. As the world watches these two figures engage in their public war of words, the stakes extend far beyond their personal rivalry, touching on the broader questions of how societies confront the challenges of the modern age and preserve the ideals of democracy in an increasingly polarized world. In a compelling article for The Observer, Sadik Khan shared his growing concerns about the rise of far-right movements in Europe and the enduring influence of Donald Trump in the United States. His words carried a sense of urgency, painting a grim picture of the current political climate and warning of the dangers posed by leaders who, in his view, exploit societal divisions for personal and political gain. Khan emphasized the need for a renewed, collective effort to confront these forces, urging progressives to stand united in defense of democratic principles and values that he believes are under unprecedented threat. Khan did not hold back in his critique of far-right leaders, describing them as opportunists who thrive on fear and discord. He pointed to the growing popularity of movements such as Germany's Alternative für Deutschland, AfD, and France's National Rally, warning that these groups capitalize on economic insecurities and cultural anxieties to drive a wedge between communities. Similarly, he highlighted Trump's continued presence on the global stage as a reminder of the resilience of reactionary populism, which he argued remains a significant challenge for progressives worldwide. In addition to condemning these political forces, Khan turned his attention to the role of financial elites in perpetuating inequality and undermining democratic institutions. He accused some of prioritizing corporate profits over the welfare of society, indirectly referencing influential figures like Elon Musk. Khan suggested that the actions of such elites often exacerbate social divisions, providing fertile ground for populist movements to take root. By focusing solely on their own interests, he argued, they neglect the broader responsibilities that come with their power and influence, further deepening public distrust in political and economic systems. Drawing historical parallels, Khan warned that the current political landscape mirrors the conditions of the 1920s and 1930s, a period that saw the rise of authoritarian regimes fueled by economic turmoil and social unrest. He called on progressives to learn from history and take decisive action to prevent the mistakes of the past from repeating themselves. We cannot afford to be complacent, he wrote, stressing the importance of exposing the true nature of these movements and offering a positive alternative that promotes unity and equality. Khan also made a passionate appeal for global progressives to prioritize the material and social welfare of their communities, arguing that improving living conditions and addressing inequality are essential to countering the allure of reactionary ideologies. For him, the fight against the far right is not just about confronting their rhetoric but also about tackling the root causes of the discontent they exploit. By fostering economic opportunity, social cohesion, and a sense of shared purpose, Khan believes that progressives can effectively neutralize the divisive tactics of populist leaders. His article serves as both a warning and a call to action, challenging political leaders, activists, and citizens alike to rise to the occasion. For Khan, the stakes could not be higher, the future of liberal democracy hangs in the balance. He concluded with a rallying cry for unity, urging those on the left to remain steadfast in their principles and unyielding in their commitment to building a fairer, more inclusive world. His message resonates as a reminder that the fight for democracy is never finished and that vigilance, courage, and collaboration are needed now more than ever. Sadik Khan has directed pointed criticism at some of his fellow Labour Party members, including Foreign Secretary David Lammy, for what he perceives as a softening of their stance toward Donald Trump and his brand of populism. Khan's comments underline his belief that progressives must remain steadfast in their opposition to the far right, refusing to compromise or shy away from speaking the truth, even when it is inconvenient or politically risky. His words are a call to arms for those who share his values, urging them to hold the line against the encroachment of reactionary ideologies that he sees as a growing threat to democratic societies. In his characteristic forthright style, Khan did not mince words, describing the current political climate as perilous. "This is a dangerous moment," he wrote, warning that the specter of resurgent fascism is haunting the West. His statement reflects a deep concern not just for the political shifts happening abroad, but for the impact these shifts could have on the United Kingdom itself. Khan has consistently framed his warnings within a broader historical context, drawing parallels to the rise of authoritarianism in the early 20th century and cautioning against repeating the mistakes of the past. For Khan, the battle against the far right is not merely ideological, it is a fight for the soul of democracy and for the fundamental principles of equality, fairness, and justice. He believes that progressives must take a bold and unapologetic stand, rejecting the idea that pragmatism should come at the cost of moral clarity. This stance has put him at odds with some within his own party who advocate for a more measured approach in engaging with political opponents. But for Khan, any perceived capitulation risks normalizing extremist views and undermining the progress that has been made in advancing liberal democratic values. At the heart of Khan's message is the belief that defending democracy requires more than rhetoric, it demands action that directly improves the lives of ordinary people. He has emphasized the need to address the material conditions that fuel discontent and division, such as economic inequality, social exclusion, and a lack of opportunity. For Khan, the far right thrives by exploiting these vulnerabilities, preying on the frustrations of those who feel left behind or marginalized. To counter this, he argues, progressives must not only challenge the narrative of fear and division but also deliver tangible solutions that restore faith in the political system. Khan's words also serve as a reminder of the importance of solidarity among progressives. He has called for a united front to confront the challenges of the modern age, from the erosion of democratic norms to the deepening inequalities exacerbated by globalization. His vision is one of collective responsibility and shared purpose, where the defense of democracy is linked to the creation of a more inclusive and equitable society. As the world faces an increasingly polarized political landscape, Khan's call for unwavering commitment to progressive ideals resonates as both a warning and an inspiration. He urges his colleagues and supporters to recognize the stakes and to act with urgency and conviction. For Khan, the fight against the far right is not just about resisting its rise, but about building a future where democracy thrives, communities prosper, and the values of fairness and equality prevail.